And it's now my honor to introduce a man who has been walking, John Francis.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. Those are the first words I said after 17 years of silence. And I kind of turned around to see where those words were coming from because I hadn't heard my voice in such a long time. I didn't know that was me saying what I was thinking. And my mother was sitting in the audience, and she jumped up and she said, "Hallelujah, Johnny's talking!" Because she hadn't heard me speak in such a long time either. My friends and family had come to hear me speak in Washington, D.C. But this all began in 1971 when I witnessed an oil spill in San Francisco Bay, and I was so affected by it, I didn't know what I should do or what I could do. And so what I did do was take my car, and I stepped out, and I started walking. And I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and all my neighbors said, "John, you're crazy. One man cannot make a difference. You're not riding in a car. It's not going to make a difference. It's not going to end up in pollution." And I argued with my friends, I argued with my neighbors, until one day I decided that, I'm just arguing too much. And on my birthday, I was 26 too, Billy. I know what it's like. On my birthday, I decided I wouldn't speak for one day, just one day. And after not speaking that one day, I had learned so much. And the first thing that I learned was I hadn't been listening. I hadn't been listening, and I had stopped learning. And so I chose another day, and another day. And pretty soon a week had gone by. And then a month, and then I said, John, maybe you ought to not speak for a whole year. So I took that vow of silence, and I didn't speak for a whole year, and another year, and another year. I bet you think my parents were worried. They were. That's another story. I spent a lot of time walking into wilderness areas. I spent a lot of time walking in urban areas. And I went to school without speaking to get my undergraduate degree in Oregon. And when I graduated with my undergraduate degree, I graduated with a goal and a promise to myself to walk and sail around the planet as part of my education in the spirit of hope that I could be a benefit to humankind, but I didn't know what that meant. I figured I'd learn on the way. And so I took off walking, my dad following me at each stop, telling me I should ride in cars and talk. When I got to Montana, I went to school there and got a master's degree in environmental studies, and I actually was a teaching assistant leading a discussion group without speaking. I graduated. My dad came. He said, "Listen, son, we're really proud of you. We're really proud of you, but what can you do with a master's degree if you don't ride in cars, if you don't talk?" I hunched my shoulders and I put my backpack on and I took off again. Across the United States, Idaho, Wyoming, South Dakota. I stopped in South Dakota. The winter came. My dad came again too. There was a powwow from the Cheyenne River Indian Reservation. And my dad said, "How do you do this, son? I mean, how do you go to a community that you don't say anything and you have all these friends and people, they know you. How do you do that?" I hunched my shoulders again. I put on my backpack, showed my dad the letter to the University of Wisconsin. "It seems like they want you to go there and study for your PhD," he said. And they're going to pay you. My dad liked that. And so I walked to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I studied for 2 years there. And I started writing on oil spills, because that was the reason why I started walking in the first place. But no one was interested in oil spills. Until one day after I finished my final examinations, I put that down and I picked up the paper, and Exxon Valdez had happened. And everybody wanted to know about oil spills, and there was only one person in the United States studying oil spills at a PhD level. Well, the government called. The government called and they said, "We want to talk to that guy. John Francis is studying oil spills." "Oh, but he doesn't talk." "Well, he can come out and talk to us." "Well, he doesn't ride in cars." Okay. My dad came out and he looked around and he said, "Son, I'm just really amazed, but we're really proud of you." And my sister said, "Maybe I should leave you alone because you seem to be doing so much better when you're not saying anything." I put my backpack on again and I walked the rest of the way across the United States. It took me 7 years and a day to get from the Pacific to the Atlantic. And on Earth Day, I decided it was time to talk. Every year I asked myself, and on Earth Day I decided it was time to talk because I had something to say. Now, I had studied environment on a formal level, and I had studied it on an informal level, walking and meeting a lot of people. And what I decided was, yes, environment's about trees and birds and endangered species and loss of habitat, but it's also about how we treat each other. It's also about human rights and civil rights and economic equity. It's also about gender equality. It's about how we treat each other when we meet each other, and that means right now. The person next to you, the person in front of you, the person behind you. How do we treat them? Because that's what's going to manifest into the physical environment. Now, I want to talk to you just a little bit about that moment of obligation, the moment of obligation when you make your decision to do the impossible thing, because it just defines who you are. I can tell you, I had not a clue that when I took the first step, that 20 years later, I would be sitting in Washington with a PhD, a UN Goodwill Ambassador, writing the regulations for oil spills in the United States. No clue at all. And what I'm saying that, and why I'm saying that, is because that's just following my heart. And that's a journey that we all have within us. To just follow what is in our heart, what is the right thing for us to do. And we'll find that we are all on this journey together, and that we're all making a difference together. And so I want to thank you for being here, because those are the first words I said, and I know I could get a hallelujah out of somebody. So thank you very much for having me here, and your moment of obligation is coming.